Do you want me to be audience today?
Sure.
Unless somebody else has an overwhelming desire.
Okay, I think we are all good now.
Congregation.
I think we're good. Okay.
Let's see if I can find a book. I'm gonna sit over there. I don't have to. I can sit back here.
to forget what the
I could just sit there back here. It's the same, no difference.
Never here.
No difference.
Yeah, but his was not, look.
I will speak loudly behind the fan.
Well,
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
And minus those who are not here, I don't know why. But as it is our practice, before we start, I'd like to know who has anything to share, whether anything good happened to you, anything good you made to make the world a better place,
Get your hand up.
or just if you're online, you can just talk.
I have something.
Please tell us.
The woman who I had been taking to chemotherapy and radiation treatments has finished her treatments. She's had a follow-up exam. Her tumor has been beaten in, and she's giddy.
Wonderful.
Good. Anybody else? No. Anybody?
I already reported on a big, bold climate fest and the investigation of how to make investments, but it is a work in progress.
And I want to point out that even though this would be a Christian statement, because the Jewish statement is I did that. To say I thought about it, I had good intention, doesn't count. But for me was I put something on Facebook, and probably you guys are not on Facebook, after the event there in Texas, where I think let's wait to see a little if the family, the event happened in Texas, at the end of the day, one would claim, one may think there are no victims. And in fact, there are, on Facebook, I talk about how I remember the rescue in Tabby. This event in Texas had the flavor of the rescue in Tabby, but a little less dramatic. I remember the rescue in Tabby even though I was 8 years old, because my aunt was in the plane. The plane that was, the Air France plane that was kidnapped in Tabby, and the Israelis came and rescued. My aunt was in the plane. So, but however, if you are to really say that this event ended with no victims, it's not true. There are at least, I think, 7 victims, because this guy is 44 years old, and a wife, and has 6 kids, whose lives have been, the struggles will always be associated with him. And now the father's not there. How are they going to make a living? So I was proposing, and I still will, when the time is appropriate, that to raise money to send them, because for both for humanitarian as well as selfish reasons. The selfish reasons are obvious. These people are helped by the Jews in the moment of need. Hopefully, they won't really need the 6 kids to grow up and avenge the father. And and for humanitarian reasons, because it's not their fault. Assuming it's not their fault, because obviously what I heard is that when he was in the synagogue, he called 2 people. He called his own 2 kids, thus incriminating them somehow, and that the British police had picked up the 2 boys who were teenagers and taken them.
How will you be able to get money to the family?
I will figure it out. I have no money. I have no collection. We didn't collect it, but it could be done. It could be done. We'll figure it out. Because it's not just fair.
Now, Pat has something to report. If you get up to the microphone.
Yes, get up here.
At our board meeting on Wednesday night, we discussed a way in which Temple Israel as a congregation can do some good in the world. And Joyce has done a wonderful job with the Afghan family, and Scott's helped her. I know Andrew Bergerson. I don't know who all has pitched in, either with donations or with physical help. But I've been worried a lot lately about in Kansas City, there are so many people who are hungry, especially children. So we talked about a way that we might help them, which is, in Rabbi's words, to assess a tax on, and we thought that when we go out to dinner, you know, we go out every Friday night and we spend $15 to $30 each on our dinners, and we don't think anything of it. But if we would each on Friday night throw a $5 bill or a $10 bill into an envelope, and that adds up over time, and we could make donations to the Jewish Family Services pantries. And so we're going to ask people to consider doing that. It's not an assessment. You don't have to pay. You can do it anonymously. We'll work on a way to contact the people who are who don't come regularly, but maybe we can encourage them to Venmo some money to the temple so we can add to this, because we need to do some good for the people in Kansas City who are in need. So that's what we talked about and agreed upon. But I want you to understand this isn't written in stone. If you have other ideas, please talk to John or to me, and we'll find a way to incorporate it.
The people who don't come, it's a tax for the privilege of staying home.
No. The other possibility is that they are contributing because it's as if they were going out to dinner with us.
Yes, exactly.
You
And-
are going to dinner with us
And
if you contribute.
And I thought, you know, maybe they go out to dinner themselves or to lunch somewhere during the week. They just put aside $5 and send it to us.
Or they've got all that extra money lying
Can't
around.
afford to go out to eat.
Going out to dinner. And so we'll be using what is it?
Venmo, yes.
You can do it right on the website. Venmo doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't-
Venmo's really good.
It doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
And you will volunteer to show us how to do that.
I will, anytime.
I think you probably can walk. it
It's on the
yourself.
website. There's a link that
Website.
shows you, click, and it says how to join Venmo.
Okay, we can? Cool.
Oh, by the way, everybody should look at the website and notice that the teaser video from the rabbi is on the website already.
I don't want to see it.
Pardon?
I don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it?
We've seen enough.
No, but the fact that it does work.
That's the point. Wait, something worked?
It isn't what
No.
the dog says, it's that the dog speaks at all.
No, you're missing the point. The second rabbi is doing something.
Wait, what?
Is it Jose?
That's right. Understand? Anyway, on this happy note, we're gonna open our service. Theo, with what song?
Shalom Aleichem, page 6.
Hare Krishna.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Yimelech, Malachei Hamalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachim L'Shalom, Malachei Elyon.
Brenda.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Mi melech
Malachei Amachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei
Now, I have somebody who wishes to volunteer
I
to
didn't
light
know that.
Shabbat
I didn't
candles.
know if someone was talking or if I should have stopped, but
Yes.
I just went on.
Yeah, just go on, because some people are clueless. Pat, how do you like to light Shabbat candles?
I like fire.
Good.
That's playing with fire, Pat.
Yes. Come, let us welcome Shabbat. May its radiance warm our hearts as we kindle these tapers.
Light is a symbol of God's presence in our lives, the eternal one of our life and our salvation.
Light is the symbol of the holiness within each of us. The human spirit is the light of God.
Light is a symbol of the Torah's teachings. The commandment of the Torah.
Light is the symbol of Israel's mission, as it is written, I have made you a covenant people to serve as a light to the nations.
Therefore, in the spirit of our ancient tradition, now as the United Israel and all nations and kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehavik ner shel Shabbat. We praise our eternal God, creator of the universe, who hallows our lives through laws and ethical teachings. We are mindful of these timeless values as we kindle the lights of Shabbat.
May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
This being the third Sabbath of the month, we continue with the third service that begins on page 56. Creator of the universe, we have come together on this Shabbat to affirm your presence in our lives and to offer our prayers of thanksgiving. The week of toil has ended, the time of rest has come. You have given us the blessing of labor so that by our work we may fashion things of use and beauty. May the fruits of our labors be acceptable to you.
May each new Shabbat find its going from strength to strength, so that through your guiding spirit, we may aspire to ever worthier endeavors. Make us conscious of our obligations and of the opportunities for services you have put within our reach. Help us to use our blessings and our talents for the benefit of others, so that the lives of many can be made better through the work of our hands.
On page 57, pray responsibly. We have been told what is good and what God expects of us.
To do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with our God.
Have we not all one Creator? Did not one God make us all?
Why do we behave divisively, setting one against the other?
Proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all the inhabitants thereof.
Let justice well up as the waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביום איכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם לעולמי המיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמר קודשה בריחו, לילה מן כל בחטא ושירתה, ושפחתה ונחמתה, דמרן בעלמא, אמרו אמן.
Please rise for the Baruch meditation of prayer. Baruch et Adonai Torah. Praise eternal God, whom all praises due.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Goed. Let us praise the eternal God, to whom all praises due now and forever.
La 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 la. La 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 la. 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 Baruch et Adonai Hamevorach. Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach leolam vaed. Hamevorach Hamevorach leolam vaed.
Page 60. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, and yet are farther than the most distant star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of the night, and yet are as familiar to us as the light of the sun. Even to Moses you said, you cannot see my countenance, but I'll make all my goodness pass before you. Thus, does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature, in the varied experiences of our lives. Next page.
Which burns like fire within us, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us. When, in the last full measure of selfless devotion, we proclaim our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness. We are truly doing your will. You live in our hearts, even as you pervade our world. Your righteous actions, we offer living testimony to your presence.
On page 62, we affirm Shema Israel Adonai Elohim Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the eternal is our God, the eternal God is one. Baruch
Shem Kavod Maputo. Let us praise God who rules in glory forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Be seated to continue the Haftarah on page 63. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים ההם אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושכבך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ופניך, וקשרך מאוד על ידיך, והיו מטורפות בעיניהם. ותרסמתם על מזוזות ביתך ותשארך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם מכל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם בארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Shall love the eternal God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all of your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall shall be upon your heart, shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and when you rise up. You shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a symbol before your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
On page 65. All these we hold to be true and sure of only one God, and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in God's love and exalt in God's justice.
Let them be their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
Let the nation not lift that sword against nation, nor learn war.
Shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart.
The stranger who sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt.
Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God?
The eternal one defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy.
Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefele, Nora tehilot osefele. Malachut charahu vanecha, Chokei hayam v'Moshe, Zelianu ve'amru, Zelianu ve'amru, Adonai Eloh le'olam va'ed, Adonai Eloh le'olam va'ed. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefele, Nora tehilot osefele.
Middle of the text.
The people of Israel shall preserve the Sabbath. Observing the Sabbath throughout the generations is a perpetual covenant. It is a bond between God and the people of Israel forever.
Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. B'nei Israel oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat v'irafash, shavat v'irafash, shavat v'irafash v'shamru b'nei ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Those who preserve Shabbat and call it a delight will rejoice. The people that hallow Shabbat delight in your goodness, for being pleased with the Sabbath day, make it the most precious of days, a day of gratitude for the work of creation.
ישמחו ומלכו זכר, שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו ומלכו זכר, שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדש לי שבי שבת, כולם ישמעו ויתענגו בטוב השבת, ובשביעי רצית בו בקידש השבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת השבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו ומלכו זכר, שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו ומלכו זכר, שומרי שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
Today, God, that we may lie down in peace and that we may rise up again to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with wise counsel. Be as a shield about us, fortifying us against hatred and war, against pestilence and sorrow. Curb within us the inclination to do evil, and then fold us within the embrace of your love. Guide our going out and coming in, life and peace from this time forth and forever. We praise you, God, for you shelter us from those who will.
Now we rise from the Amida on page 69.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufira ki tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, Eleon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
We praise you, God of our mothers and fathers, God of Abraham, God of Sarah, God of all generations. You bestow loving kindness on all your people. You remember the devotion of those who came before us. As you guided our ancestors with love, you offer hope to us, their descendants. You are our creator, helper, our guide and protector. We praise you, eternal God, shield of Abraham, and help of Sarah.
Infinite is your power, O God. Great is your gift of life. In loving kindness, you sustain the world. Through the endless flow of your blessings, you preserve all of creation. You uphold the falling and heal the sick. Free the captive and keep faith with your people in death and life. Who is like you, author of life and death? We praise you, God, the source of eternal life.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ובדום מלך, מלך מביט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
71. Source of all knowledge and wisdom, you have endowed us with reason and understanding. We pray for the light of the truth, for insight into your ways, and for the strength to banish from our hearts every unworthy desire. Forgive us for our transgressions and pardon our failings. May those who have lost their way come to know your love again, that they may come to you with newness of heart.
O God of our mothers and fathers, grant that our worship on this Shabbat may be acceptable to you. Sanctify us through your precepts, that we may share in the blessings of Torah. Help us to be satisfied with the gifts of your goodness and grateful for all that you bestow. Purify our hearts that we may serve you in truth. May we preserve Shabbat as our people's heritage from generation to generation, that it will ever bring rest and joy, peace and comfort to our lives. We praise the eternal God who sanctifies Shabbat.
Creator of all the world, you have blessed us with noble powers. Teach us to make wise use of them. You have called us to be your partners in the never-ending work of creation. Thank you for the capacity to choose the path devoted to your service and dedicated to the well-being of those around us.
May all people find their way and help establish peace in our world. Let them cultivate that goodwill which may bring enduring peace. Let all nations realize that the triumphs of war turn to ashes, that justice and right are better than conquest and aggression. May they come to see that it is not by might, not by power, but by your spirit that life prevails. Bless our land with plenty and our nation with peace. May righteousness abide with us and virtue bring us happiness.
May be seated. Shalom.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Give thanks for the freedom that is ours, and we pray for those in other lands who are persecuted and oppressed. Help them to bear their burdens and keep alive in them the love of freedom and the hope for deliverance. Uphold the hands of our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Cause a new light to shine on Zion and on us all. that the time may come again when the Torah will go forth from the house of Israel and the word from the tents of Jacob. Blessed is our God, whose presence gives life to our people Israel. And as it is our practice, prior to the silent prayer, we will come back in our prayer to page 10, prayer for those in need of healing. Page 10. Prayer invites God's presence to lift our spirits. It allows the blessing and gift of hope to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to part fields, nor bend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. Shabbat, we pray first for members of our congregation, need of healing, and friends and relatives, all members. Nancy Stern, Gary Kashner, Marvin Aaron, Gary Mincy, Mike Herman, Wayne Owen, Martha Katz, Louise Diana Bergerson, Ray Barker, Paul Tomei, Lily Montgomery, Jeffrey Lazar, always for Lou, very much. And then for Mike Becker, on behalf of Pat McKenna, is my biggest client on the sick list, prayer business. Mike Becker, Andy Becker, Bailey Swales, Roseanne Wu, Colin Shows, and Anna Jackson. Anybody else? I know my mom wants us to pray for a friend. She'll talk, I hope.
Joyce Brown.
Glenn Christek, Donna Vestal, Ann Martin, Roy Wenzel, and Rebecca Dukes.
I remember Felicia Waxman. Anybody else? No?
Maria Morrow, Christine Mansell, Anita Hampshire.
Felicia Vax.
Thank you. Continue. We pray
For all people with this hour are in sickness and want or in distress of body or spirit. We name in our hearts those who are near to us and whose pain we feel pain. Let them know your help and feel your presence, realizing that they are not alone.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
pause for a moment of silent prayer, using the words our hearts may prompt us, are those to be found on page 74. this week's Torah portion, another interesting one, Yitro, the one that's famous for having the 10 Commandments. At least the first time they appear later in Deuteronomy as well. And, in there we read in Exodus 20:13, you shall not murder. And we are still all quite still disturbed about all those events that happened in Texas that I don't need to recount for you. Many things still obviously need to be told and explained if you care enough to find out. But one of the questions apparently, so the police went there and killed the hostage taker, the guy with the gun. It's not clear if he killed himself or the police killed him. And that brings the question is, once the issue is solved, the perpetrator was killed and everybody was happy, sigh of relief, but is it justified killing the gunman? And so in this week's Torah portion we read, you shall not, people mistakenly call, you shall not kill. That's not true. It says you shall not murder. So because the Torah does not forbid the killing. Because you can kill many occasions where you can kill, the occasions you are commanded to kill. But what the Torah forbids is committing murder, which means killing somebody innocent. There are times when killing is justified. If there is a rodef is a pursuer. So somebody chasing after somebody else with the intent of killing that person, you're not only allowed, you're potentially obligated to kill that rodef. And from the concept of rodef, many things can be derived. For instance, if there's a fetus, Talmud says if a fetus is inside the mother and it's breached, the baby can't be born, and it's going to kill the mother who's pursuing her, you're allowed even to go with a knife and cut a fully formed baby into pieces. The technology of those days. And certainly, a gunman who breaks into a synagogue is a rodef and could be killed as long as he remains attractive. So, one must be careful, however, when defining someone as a rodef. In 1995, Yigal Amir assassinated then Prime Minister from Israel, Jacques Rabin, at a rally in Tel Aviv, actually literally next door to the hotel where my uncle was the manager. Amir was an Orthodox Jew who claimed, or who listened to a stupid rabbi who said that Rabin was a rodef. He believed Rabin's pursuit of peace with the Arabs was a direct threat to the lives of Israelis, and therefore killing Rabin was justified. Amir committed murder and was sentenced to life in prison. He's a Jew who claims to be Orthodox, using religion to justify breaking the 10 Commandments. We just heard this famous case here in Florida, the stand your ground law. There are a few states that have such a concept. A person may use deadly force if they believe their life is being threatened. Unfortunately, such deadly force has often been used against innocent people who are not a threat to life. Sometimes such killing is motivated by racial prejudice. People feel threatened by people of color, even if the victim has no weapon. A person is a rodef only if they are a clear threat to life. Killing human beings may be justified in other situations. For instance, in war, it's permissible to kill enemy combatants, other soldiers. However, every effort must be made to avoid collateral damage, the killing of innocent civilians. One of the sad facts that Israel faces today is that Hamas in Gaza places the rocket launchers in the midst of civilian populations. So when Israel goes and attacks the place that from the rockets are being launched, they end up by default killing civilian people. And it's a painful dilemma, but they need to stop the rockets being thrown. The issue of capital punishment is a deeply controversial in our society, as it is in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud teaches that any court would put somebody to death once in 7 years was considered a court with blood in their hands. Another rabbi said once even in 70 years. Two other rabbis teach that they would never put anybody to death. You know, and there was a way you could basically stop the death penalty. If it ever happened to us, we're never going to put anybody to death. But then Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was one of the ruling line, of concluded that if this is true, namely if you never allow the death penalty, you'll be multiplying murderers in Israel. That people will be afraid to commit murder because they know it will never be the death penalty. That is in Makot 110. Shortly, so evidently, death penalty is a complex thing that have good arguments on both sides. Life in prison sometimes seems too light of a punishment for somebody who commits a horrific crime. But it also argue that the objective of justice is to provide justice, not revenge. But the death penalty also leads to decades of legal arguments and court times and huge expenses. And sometimes the death penalty ends up never being carried out because they manage just to drag it forever. There are other cases which involve killing, but are unclear whether they involve murder, particularly at the beginning and at the end of life. Is abortion murder? Jewish law would say no, it's not, although it's certainly not permissive towards abortion. Our greatest commentator, Rashi, teaches regarding a fetus, lav nefesh hu, it's not yet a person. Is euthanasia murder? Judaism and the secular law in most of our states differentiate between active and passive euthanasia. There are Jewish sources which forbid actively killing a person, but permitting the removal of a barrier to death, allowing nature to take its course. Things will happen what they would happen anyway. As we can see, a very, very complex issue. The Ten Commandments prohibition of murder raises many difficult and complex questions. Complaints, remarks? Ma'am.
You said that Jewish law does not consider abortion to be murder. The first 8 words you speak out there, Shabbat teaches that all life is sacred.
Right.
So how do you reconcile those?
Because a fetus is not alive.
So if all life is sacred, that means a little mosquito also.
Means what?
A mosquito is life also.
Because Judaism perceives life as being life only when it can maintain itself. If you take the fetus out of the mother's womb, it doesn't survive. So it's not alive. That's the reason. And the same thing would apply if somebody's connected to a machine and you disconnect. But, if it's only breathing because you have him on oxygen, you take oxygen out, and he dies, you would have died anyway.
So then now who is it that has issued this, that life is only, in other words, you must be able to maintain life on its own?
No, it's one of those basic rabbinic principles.
Yeah.
That if life doesn't sustain itself, it's not life. Or, and I understand a fetus is potentially a person. For full disclosure, however, to give you an idea, if there's a fight, 2 guys are fighting, and then the wife of one of them who's pregnant comes in and tries to get in the middle, and then the guy who's hitting her husband hits her and she's pregnant and she aborts, is only liable for financial crimes, not for murder. On the other hand, curiously enough, because again, the idea that the fetus doesn't have personhood, doesn't have not a person, but for full disclosure as well, if there are occasions, a little complicated, but if a guy dies and the wife is pregnant, the fetus does inherit his mind. The fetus inherits the father's mind. So that.
Well, this is very complicated.
Yes.
But that.
So that basically negates the fact that the fetus doesn't have personal.
Yes.
But that perhaps is an exception, because generally speaking, it doesn't.
So if you, for example, if in Somalia, our beloved friends, the Saudis, bomb a hospital and kill 20 people all on respirators who can't maintain their life without assistance.
They really didn't kill them.
You didn't kill them. I guess we got a little.
That's by Jewish law. If you go by Muslim law, or which is in Somalia, it's mostly maintained by Muslim law and by, what's the other one?
Sharia.
Yeah. They just committed 20 cases of murder, and if any of them are pregnant, they get charged for each of those.
Yeah, and so I guess that the guidance for us as Jews has got to carefully examine where the opinion comes from in our Jewish tradition. And you can't simply tell me Jewish tradition. You're going to have to lay out the whole argument that they came to.
I'll have to look at the sources for you.
Yeah, and that's rough.
But the only thing is, like, certain things, even for us liberal Jews, certain things are outside of the faith.
Right.
You can't say, look, you allow me to be a Jew and believe in one God. Yes. You allow me to be a Jew and believe in no God. Yes, we allow that. How come I don't allow me to be a Jew and believe in God and Jesus? That's out of the faith. Some things are outside of the boundaries. So some things are in the boundaries. And the issue that in Jewish law there is no argument is that the fetus is not an alive being. Having said that, again, and I alluded to that, there is a definite pro-natality position. It's not like you can do any abortions you want any day, anytime. It's allowed within certain context, it's allowed within certain contexts, but if you have to have a bias, the bias is for having, to argue, oh, I don't want to have a baby because he may be born with Down syndrome. It's not a valid argument. No, well, today it is because you could figure out, but in previous days, as that happened with the prophet Isaiah and the king said he had a dream, he shouldn't have children because the children would be bad. And Isaiah, no, it was Ezekiel. Ezekiel said, no, never mind. Your job is to have the children. Let God worry about them, be good or bad. So, the bias is pro-birth, but at the same time, if there are reasons why abortion, that's against the point. Where is an abortion allowed or not? In our own day, girl comes to me, tells me, look, I wasn't expecting, I wasn't planning, I was planning to go to college, now I got pregnant, if I have this kid, it's gonna mess up my life, it's gonna mess up there was a time that would mess up people's social life, socially, they'd be looked down upon, a child born out of wedlock, those things used to happen in the past, if you remember. Then you could say, probably say yes or no, if it's good or, allowed or not.
It'd be interesting to put together the information on which these are the Jewish opinion.
Look, if somebody came to me and said, look, the situation is going to mess up my life, I'm not going to be able to go to college, so I can't force, so she's going to have a lesser job, she's going to be able to manage. I would say yes, I think it's justifiable to have an abortion. If you go to an Orthodox rabbi, the Orthodox rabbi would say, no, find the guy who got the baby there, marry, make him maintain. It doesn't matter how happy you'll be or not. We don't care. Happy is optional.
There's always adoption.
Yeah.
Now, you're seeing this from a rabbi point of view. Now, here's something funny, and I won't go into details on the particular incident, but we had to deal with a case where they were trying to find reasons to charge an individual. Abortion, or not abortion, but murder of a fetus was one of them. but because the individual was Jewish, they had to find out whether they could charge this individual. By the state, yes, they actually went to it's a group of lawyers. That's all they do is Jewish law. There are books, books that are huge. I couldn't believe how big these books were. And that's all they're about it's just about Jewish law. And they go back, I don't know how many centuries, but if you really want to get that detailed, they will detail all the new stuff as well as all the old stuff. Because apparently it goes back to as far as Moses' time.
Well, why don't you give us a source?
It's Jewish law.
You mean if I just, there is a word
You
called
could
Jewish law?
actually look up Jewish law and they will actually start pulling up all these books. Because that's how we had to find out. We had to actually look up a Jewish lawyer in New York. And that's how we found out about these books. And this guy just had books on books on books on books, and they're Jewish law, and they go by year, all the way back, apparently all the way back to Moses' time, according to this particular lawyer. But I don't see how that's possible because these books didn't look that old. They looked like they might have been 300 or 400, but they detail stuff like abortion, murder, stealing a car, because apparently theft is okay in certain circumstances.
Well, if you need a ride.
Apparently, I don't know, but I didn't understand.
Well, I suspect that you may wind up with the situation of, put two Jews together and you have three opinions. And that's, but it'd be interesting to be able to explore what's been lined up amongst Jewish law consensus. Rabbi, your work is cut out for you.
Indeed.
There are lots of books about it, and that's what I talk about.
I have one more question. Then according to Jewish law, capital punishment is not allowed.
It is allowed, but it was in ancient Israel, there was capital punishment. The Talmud discusses the ways you kill people. But should do that. Actually, I am a rabbi. I remember what they are. Throwing them from a high place.
But Jewish law is not one thing. Jewish, just like.
Okay, Jewish law is principle is what the Sanhedrin did, how they ruled. The Talmud is basically the constitution of Israel in the year 2300.
Yes.
Or before Christ, after Christ, I don't know, something like that. So because that's how people judge. People came in. There were courts,
right?
And there was a death penalty, but was applied extremely rarely because the standard of proof is very, very, very high, and it's totally different than how death penalty is applied here. I don't think it was conceivable that somebody could refute. Because here all the time you discover afterwards that somebody, through DNA, remember that the guy is not guilty, and then they release him after 20 years in prison. That will never happen because the standard of proof was so high. But also remember, people live in a different world; they live very close by. So I walk into a room with John. You hear all kinds of screaming, and at the end, I'm all covered in blood, and John is there, dead. But you didn't see it. You didn't see me taking a knife. The knife is in the floor. At that time there was no political thing. You couldn't condemn somebody for that. For instance.
Now is that according to the halakha?
To the Talmud. Yeah, that's the halakha. Because again, the problem is that in those days people lived much closer. So in fact, if you Today, John lives in such a big house, I can kill him in one room, his wife is in the other end of the house, she's not even gonna hear. Right. In those days, people lived, so.
They get an entire family.
Right, yeah, everybody lived in 2 rooms, so it would be almost impossible. So, that's why, but yes, the standard of approval was extremely high. Were people put to death? Yes, they were, but again, extremely rare. But again, the whole system was made for give people all the chances in the world.
But law is a process of evolution, just like the civil law is.
Right.
And so to have a book and say Jewish law says is not a simple matter of hitting the wiki book,
No, it's right, exactly.
Wikipedia.
There's fascinating articles written about that. I remember one about, for us, we like dogs. I remember a brilliant article from Judas Magazine about how dogs are treated in Jewish law.
Yeah.
And at first, they are treated as a wild animal in the desert, and then if you have one at home, you're bringing danger upon yourself and other people and your responsibility, to having a home companion, to having questions, and I'm not making this up, because Reformed Jews will ask all kinds of bizarre stuff. Can I say Kaddish for my dog? And I remember when we applied for a job or offer a job in San Juan, Puerto Rico, when they opened the synagogue, they allow people from everywhere in the world. They build a wall at little squares like this, and you could put dedicated in memory, donated by, and somebody wanted to give a donation memory of their dog, Fido. And the board went back and forth, we can't allow that. And then the person went to his rabbi, and he sent a donation in memory of beloved F.I.D.O. That was a brilliant rabbinic resolution.
One of my dogs had the obituary in the Minneapolis Star Tribune.
Well, there is a dog that had his obituary this week in the Jewish Chronicle as well. But anyway.
So we don't have any answers for you, Pat, but this is critical, because if we can solve this for Pat, she can be converted again.
No, but I think it could be interesting down the line, because there are politicians in our country who want to make abortion available.
There is a book.
Into the time when a fetus is viable.
Look, there is a book, very accessible. I need to get home and check, because I know I use it to teach confirmation class students, where it does exactly that. It says the big topics of the day, abortion, and it's still like a textbook, it's conversational, but it does allude to, not extensively, not every detail, but it really gives you a good broad perspective, not only of the law, but that, this is how it has been changed. And the problem, the orthodoxy also changed. It just changes very, very, very slow. But they also make they just make slower. So that's it. Anyway, I think that's it, ma'am.
That's enough rebuttal.
Yeah, enough rebuttal, yes.
Never mind.
And we'll continue on page 268.
What were we doing?
No,
We're gonna,
Something important.
368.
we were somewhere.
368. Please rise for the adoration. And for the people online to wake up. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו.
Let us adore the ever-living God. We offer praise unto you, who spread out the heavens and established the earth. Your glory is revealed in the heavens above, and your greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else.
We bow our heads in reverence before the eternal one, source of all.
אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
May the time not be distant, O God, when you shall be worshipped throughout the earth, when unbelief shall disappear and error be no more. Fervently we pray that the day may come when all people shall be guided by your teachings. Corruption and evil shall give way to purity and goodness. Superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. Then all who dwell on earth shall know that to you alone every knee shall bend and every voice give praise. May all created in your image recognize that we are brothers and sisters, so that one in spirit and one in harmony, we may be forever united before you. Then shall your reign be established on earth, and the word of your ancient prophet be fulfilled. The eternal God will reign forever and ever.
On the day the eternal shall be one, in God's name shall be one.
ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Thoughts now come to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, and those of every race, nation, and faith, whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Shabbat, anybody observing a Shiva, 7-day mourning period?
Yes, we have General Charles McGee, who was who flew 409 combat missions in 3 wars. He was a Tuskegee Airman. He passed away this week. Also, Rabbi Dreschner, who was noted to be the rabbi who'd had the most arrests in the whole country. And of course, he said that we must leave the world better than when we found it. Oh, and don't forget Meatloaf. Yeah, don't forget Meatloaf. He said, if I die, I die, and he did.
Well, I was going to say that he has the record of being the rabbi most jailed, just because there's not good police in this town, and they don't know about everything I'm doing. But that's let me think what else we can remember. Anybody had, we definitely remember everyone who died on account of COVID. Anybody still observing a shloshim, a 30-day mourning period? No. As far as yortzites, Temple Israel remembers the following, whose yortzites happened this week, years past. Idel Merzliak was a mother-in-law of Felix Minkowski. Louis Shostak, who I think is related to Martha Katz, his grandfather, and Samuel Paley, who definitely is Martha Katz's grandfather. Shostak, I don't know, maybe related to Howard Gold was. I don't know, somebody who doesn't come. So hopefully, but we remember these people.
We're doing it for them.
Yes. Anybody else has a yortzeit? The departed whom we now remember have entered into the peace of life eternal. They still live on earth in the acts of goodness they perform, the hearts of those who cherish their memory. In the beauty of their lives, by them on us, a loving benediction. Now, as a community of mourners, we turn to page 375 to join the ancient words of the Kaddish. Itkadal, Itkadash, Shemeirah, Ve'alma, Divrah, V'Tei, V'Chai Echol, V'Yomechol, U'V'Chai Echol, V'Yisrael. Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabban Torah, Le'olam Le'olam. Yitbarach, V'Yishtabach, V'Yitpawar, V'Yitpawam, V'Yitnaseh, V'Yitadar, V'Yitale, V'Yitala, Shnei Kudsha, V'Yichtu, Le'ela Minkom, V'Yitchata, V'Shinata, Tushvechata, V'Nechmata, Da'minam V'Yama, V'Yitlu, Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabban Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'Yalkol Yisrael, V'Yamru, Amen. Osei Shalom V'Brahma, U'Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Yalkol Yisrael, V'Yamru, Amen. The source of peace and peace will mourn, comfort all who be with them all as I like to say. Amen. Seated, any announcement?
Well, let's see, we had a board meeting this week. Unfortunately, we only had 3 board members attending, so it wasn't official, but in fact, we had a lively discussion of all sorts of wonderful things, including the new proposal by Pat on basically tithing a dinner and raised the issue of investments. We had treasurer did not appear, but we did, by force of strict embarrassment, get a financial report now, so that's lovely. So we can look it over and we can find out who, if anybody, has paid dues, which is nice. So we can do that. Let's see what other exciting events are there. There's I'm sorry? Yes, yes, we'll have a Abdallah in March. And well, who is it? Who's
Henry Epstein.
okay? And we're gonna learn about how to die gracefully in Kansas City.
In a profitable way for him.
In a profitable way, yes. And what other?
And actually, over dinner, I'll tell you guys about somebody else who just got.
I'm sorry?
Over dinner, I'll tell you something about
Yes,
somebody else.
we have more ideas. The ideas just keep cropping up. We can't suppress them. Thank you, Theo, for lovely singing from a distance, and Rabbi for lovely sermon and service from a closer distance to us. And appreciate the camaraderie of those of us who are here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Let's see. We're concluding with
Lo Yisagoy, 425.
and followed by final benediction.
Lo Yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yiledud milchama. Lo Yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yiledud milchama. Lo Yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yiledud milchama. Lo Yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yiledud milchama.
Concluding our service, I ask God's blessings upon us. Yivarechecha Adonai v'shmerecha, may God bless us and keep us. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'chuneka, may God look kindly on us and ever be gracious to us. Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may God show us steadiness and give us shalom peace. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I will be there in person.
Fine, thank you for being here.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank God.
Okay, taking this out.
Okay.